And good tidings, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the September 2025 edition of Metal Albums with Birds on the Cover. That's the show we do here on this channel every month, where we look at the recently released or re-released albums of metal music persuasion, which also feature birds on the cover. And that's about the only two qualifying things, and sometimes we get very creative and stretchy with even those two criteria. Yeah, so, September. As is often the habit on this show, I have a music concert report to give here at the start before we get on with the actual album reviews here, because I did in fact go to one concert in September, and might as well tell you about that, yes? This was a double album release party thing at Tavastia at the start of September. The primary show was Before the Dawn, whose new album Cold Flare Eternal came out at the start of this month. There is no bird on the cover, so we're not going to be featuring that on the show, sadly. Yeah, actually a returning band that I've already reported on once. I believe it is my August 24 episode, where I talked about my trip to the Dark River Festival in Kotka, and Before the Dawn was one of the bands I saw on that trip. So, interesting. First time we're getting a repeat band return here, although going to be a short report on that. My primary interest here, though, was the other band playing before the headliner, Before the Dawn. It was rising stars in the Finnish melodeath scene, Suotana, who also had a new album come out at the end of August, Onas 2, which also does not have birds on the cover, so I'm very sad to say that we couldn't really talk about it in length, but I'm going to talk about it here now, because Suotana, I've heard about it 5-6 years ago, the first time when they had two albums out, and I remember at that point my first reaction was a bemused snort, because for the non-Finnish speakers, this band has kind of a corny wordplay in their album. It's basically a combination of the words for swamp and for Satan, but note the context. In Finnish language, you can invoke the name of Satan basically as just kind of like a shout of like an expletive shout, like the kind of shout you'd say if you realized that you locked your car keys inside your car, or like if a surprise insurance bill came in the mail that you weren't expecting, then you could probably, shout out the name of Satan. So, this band basically, I think the, appropriate translation would be something like swamp damn it into English, to really convey the idea of what this band's name sounds like. Or I guess, bog damn it would be even more on point, I think, Anyway, the point is, that's a kind of a goofy band name. And the whole swamp motif brings to mind big name Finnish melodeath band Kalmach, who is incredibly swamp themed. And yeah, I remember when I listened to them first, a couple of songs, okay, this is some kind of Kalmach worship band, isn't it? Which, to be honest, is fine, because that has been one of my favorite bands. So another band playing that kind of high intensity keyboard riffing melodeath is very, very, very appealing. But I gotta say, when their third album, Onas 1, came out a couple of years ago, that blew my socks off. That is an incredibly good album. That is one of the best in Finnish melodeath albums in the last few years, for sure. It's only I think 6 songs, but they're these huge, progressive, amazing productions. That album kind of has a bird on the cover. There's these two totems, one of which looks kind of like an owl. But that album came out before I started this show, so unfortunately, again, can't really talk about it, haven't had a chance to talk about it on the show until now, of course. But yeah, it's an incredibly good album, and of course the fact that there's going to be a sequel, Onas 2, that came out now had me very hyped. I haven't had a chance to listen to it a whole lot yet, but this seems to be, again, just a really good, solid continuation. Don't know, again, how the two of these rank compared to each other, but definitely just amazing continuation of that, like the really, really, really perfected, like, Finnish Melodeath sound that they got going on the first album. So yeah, suffice to say, I was pretty damn jazzed to go see Suotana live for the first time. And yeah, basically anyone looking forward to Before the Dawn, I'll just admit right now that it was a long day and they were the last show, so I kind of, cut my losses and left a little bit early because, I was pretty much done for the day. So there's not going to be much about Before the Dawn here. Go watch my August 24 episode again if you want to hear me talk at further length when I saw their full set then. Sorry about that, but yeah, but before either of them, both of these bands did have a warm-up band called Divenial Verdict. I had never heard of this band before. I believe Metal Archive described it as some kind of avant-garde death metal, I believe was the title. It was very lightly packed this time, Tavastia. I was surprised. Like, tickets were still greenlit for sale. Like, yellow or red light had not come on yet. Like, as I was checking in the line 10 minutes before the doors opened, and certainly the warm-up band did not draw a ton of people. A decent crowd for sure, people did materialize, but I don't remember ever seeing Tavastia so loose, like, in terms of, like, when I've been there, it's always been, like, jam-packed, like, now there was, like, less staff as well, like, they have, only the main bar was open, there's also a bar at the back of the, like, concert area, but they was closed this time, and, yeah, like, while there was a really good crowd then for the two mainliner bands, I'm used to, like, it being, again, jam-packed to the whole back, and, like, the side room bar area also being clogged with people, and I'm a little surprised. I've never been to Tavastia like this before, but that doesn't mean that the bands weren't great. So, Divenial Verdict, yeah, they came out and played a about half-hour set. It was all right. It was a pretty good opening thing. Like, the music wasn't exactly my vibe. Again, like, with two big Melodeath names playing, like, a more traditional death. Well, I say that, but apparently it's supposed to be avant-garde. But like, it was, how should I put it? It still had, like, the kind of trappings of, like, a little bit more straightforward death metal band that isn't quite my vibe. But it was competently played. Like, the guys had funny energy. Like, the bassist and guitarist had, like, hooded cloaks, and the lead singer, like the only singer, like the vocalist, had a hooded cloak and some kind of Phantom of the Opera or Shao Kahn, like, half skull mask on. Unfortunately, their lighting, they were so backlit that I could never really make out what exactly he was wearing. Just the vague shape that, okay, he's rocking some kind of funny half mask. All right, that's fun. But, they played with pretty good intensity. They were into it, and the crowd was kind of a warm-up crowd, so a little bit muted, but there were fans. I could see people with Divenial Verdict shirts in the audience. They got warmed up. I think just as a first touch on this band, my impression was that it was relying a little bit too much on the same structure of, they would play, like, these really slow, like, kind of bassy, slow, kind of spooky vibes kind of sequences, and then suddenly, like, okay, now it's time for, like, machine gun drumming and, like, screaming, and everybody was jamming super hard, like there were several songs that went that way. I thought the song The Quietus was probably the best one because it kind of didn't do that. It just kind of was like a slow vibe playing. And yeah, honestly, those sequences when they really did indulge the more, like, atmospheric, slower music kind of reminded me almost of Tool at times, because they also had, like, a very, like, alt metal-ish guitar work at times, so made me think a little bit of Tool at times, but obviously with, like, harsh death metal vocals. So not that close to that experience. And yeah. Not gonna probably be listening to this band further. It's not exactly my scene, but they seem good. They seemed all right. They put up good show, good opening, and after that, Suotana was up, the band that I was there to see, and very cool. They also had great presence when these guys all lined up there, like, going from four member band to 6 people, because this one also had 2 guitarists and a keyboardist, and it was just fun watching them set everything up, like, because they have like this kind of rustic old-timey vibe, this band, to them, so it was really fun. Like the keyboard had like this wooden palisade thing set up in front of it, and they like brought like kind of vintagey looking storm lanterns to dangle off of the drums. That was like fun little set dressing. And yeah, the band came up, and I love the swamp theme. A lot of the guys had like kind of smeared brown and gray paint on them to really look like they had crawled up from the mud before this concert. And I gotta say, the main vocalist, he just had a presence that like drew you in. Like once the whole band was lining up during the opening like tune and getting ready, and he just walked in to start belting out the first big song, like, because first of all, him being a large man in general, but also just his get up being like just a step above everybody else by having like a fur lined leather vest with a bunch of like buckles and like kind of a vintage old timey peasant looking like flax tunic underneath. So like he was kind of doing that like Ren Fairy look. It was really, really cool looking. It was like kind of neat that like he busted out that like, and he was super feeling it. I thought the band in general really was like feeling it. They were really jazzed to be there playing. And at this point, there was definitely now a crowd that was really into it. Warmed up a little bit slow, but once they got to the third song, the like amazing like fast-paced crowd pleaser song from Onus 1, which is Through the Mammoth Valley, like a mosh pit did break out at last, and like people were friggin' feeling it, and everyone was really the band was like hyped to play it. You could definitely feel it, and their song playing was intense. Like they built it out like these great songs with like real good ferocity, and the crowd that I was in was also just like really feeling it and into it. And it was great. I was really, really happy to see Suotana. I think a couple points. If I have to be critiquey here, I actually did think that the drumming was a little bit off a couple times. I could swear I misheard it, but I thought like the beat went off a couple times, like as if the drummer was trying to find his footing. Maybe, I don't know. And then what I just thought was really funny is I mentioned the fun keyboard, but I gotta say, with the way the lighting was set up, and also the way the fog machine was pushing fog in the corner that the keyboardist was in, he completely disappeared at times, and like there was a couple moments I forgot that he's in the band. Like everybody else, I said that everybody else had great presence and like were really feeling it. This guy just kind of vanished from the scene because like you just couldn't see him in the background. I don't know, maybe he's a shy guy, so maybe he was perfectly happy to just be disappearing into the fog, but I thought it was a little funny at some point. I was like, oh yeah, this band has like an actual live keyboardist, oh yeah. I don't know if it's a complaint or not, but in their 45-minute set, I think they only fit 6 songs in. Like, it's they have long songs because they definitely, again, with Onus 1, they just started jamming. That album itself only has, I think, 6 songs on it. So they started, like, doing these long-form songs. And, like, definitely they ended on a real crowd pleaser. The song River Onus from that first Onus album, which is super cool and got the crowd into it super well, chanting the name of the river during the parts in the song. But yeah, like it's like, I don't know, probably a 10-minute long song, so obviously it ate up a huge chunk of the playtime for the band. So I don't know, like, obviously we got a full 45-minute set, and I was like, hell yeah, like, it's not like I got shortchanged, but there's something about, like, 5 songs in, they're like, it's time for our last song, like, I was like, what? Come on, oh! Yeah, well, maybe someday these guys will be the actual big headliner of the main show, and then they'll be able to squeeze out, like, an hour-plus show, and you will get a little bit more songs. That's the problem with your big proggy long song band, is like then you're gonna only get the couple of the hits for that 45 minutes. But it was super worth it. I was really happy with these lads from Lapland and their jamming. Like definitely happy. The band sounds as good live as it does does on these 2 recent albums of theirs. And, but I listened to previous albums are also fine. Certainly fine. It's just that, like, it's these last 2 where I went, like, oh my god, these guys are cooking. Suotana is doing a Onus 2 album release tour in Europe. By the time this episode comes out, the tour is still going on. In October, they're going to be like in Central Europe, like Germany and other Central European parts. And I believe at the end of October, and then like halfway through November, they'll be coming back to Finland and doing a few more gigs here. So I would strongly recommend, if they happen to come into your neck of the woods, dear listener, viewer, patron guy, then Suotana is a band worth seeing live. Very much recommended. Well, after that, of course, Before the Dawn comes up. Another like long mainstay name in Finnish kind of melodic metal, and leans into melodeath, especially now with their harsh vocalist, Paavo Lapotti, I think was his name. I already told this story during the Dark River Festival report last year, but this band's like trajectory is so fascinating that I'll just repeat myself. It's just so interesting. Like, yeah, like they pretty long running band, like at least 20 years old. Their breakthrough hit Dead Song came out in like the mid-aughts, and it got like a bunch of radio play at the time as well. It was like pretty popular. I think kind of became a one-hit wonder in like, I'm not saying that it's not a popular band, but like in terms of like actually reaching the mainstream and being played on radio and stuff, I don't remember anything ever coming out and lasting very long after Dead Song. But like, yeah, no, definitely like, no mean to shortchange the band. They're certainly popular. They were headlining this concert, this, everything. So, but yeah, I feel like the band, they kind of peaked in mainstream attention in the early, like, mid-aughts. And, like, as I understand, the band kind of struggled after that, like, after like, they became more of a metal scene, more niche band. Like, as I understand that the band was, like, struggling and went on hiatus for a while, until this guy, Paavo Lapotti, appeared on one of these talent singing shows on TV. I don't remember which one, like Voice of Finland or like one of these things, but he showed up there, and he was one of these, like, every once in a while you get these, like, I'm gonna sing metal music on these talent shows, and I think generally neither the general viewing public nor the metal community usually latches onto these people very well. But, like, this guy actually had the swagger, and, like, he could do, like, harsh vocals. He could, he's a very talented metal singer for sure. And he sang Dead Song, the classic song. And I forget his name, but the, like, then vocalist guitarist of Before the Dawn saw that performance and was like, I need to get this guy in my band. And he moved to be a drummer. So the old singer of Before the Dawn is still in the band, the kind of father of the band. He's now just a drummer for some reason. And he was like, please, dude, just come and sing in our band. And that's like, that's fascinating. That's like revitalized the band as far as I can tell. Because, this is like the first... this is like the second album in just a few years after like the lineup change, and like it seems like they're touring quite a bit and have a lot of energy in them. So good on them. It's just wow, what a interesting little path for these guys. But yeah, as I mentioned, this was pretty late in the evening. I had a long day. I'd already seen Before the Dawn a year ago, and definitely Suotana was what I was most into. So I regret to say that I only stuck around for like the first 3-4 songs. And I was like, I'll make it in time at home at a reasonable time if I leave now. So, sorry to Before the Dawn. I gonna had to amscray that time. And also, again, good presence as these guys came up. Kind of weird, first of all, again, Mr. Father of the Band, drummer guy, he walked up and sat down in the drums before they even played any intro tune, and I could swear the crowd didn't react. I didn't hear. I was pretty far back at that point. I could swear that I did not hear any kind of pop from the crowd when he showed up and sat down. Because that was such a strange choice. Then the other band members walked up once the music started playing, and then the crowd woke up. But yeah, that was okay. And the first couple songs pretty good. I thought the first actual song, the vocalist Mr. Lapotti was still looking for his clean vocals a little bit. They sounded kind of forced to me. Again, maybe I was in the back and the acoustics was bad, but he was struggling hitting high notes. His high notes sounded weird to me, on that first song. But the rest of the band was playing pretty intense. They were into it. I was feeling it. Then the second song hit, and this was a nice, very much got to show off the harsh vocals much more. It was a really intense song with some pretty intense kind of alt metal-y riffing. Crowd was now into it, and the band was definitely into it, and but if they stuck with that energy, I think it was a pretty good concert. The third song was a older track, My Darkness, which also again just sounded good, and I thought now the clean vocals came out a lot better as well. So I think, I don't know, maybe I was just not feeling it or something was weird with that first song, but they had by themselves warmed up to it a couple songs in. But I did not stick around to hear Dead Song again. If it's at all how I imagine it and the way it was in Dark River, that's the final song they play as the crowd pleaser, final big number. I did not want to stick around that long, so I left. But all in all, good evening. Before the Dawn is also touring now. I did not check what their timetable and where they are stopping by is, but I think their tour might still be going on by the time this episode comes out, so you might still have a chance to see them somewhere in October. I think they're a pretty cool band, so might be worth it, if the Finnish melodic metal scene appeals to you, this is a pretty cool example. And the band, again, is feeling pretty revitalized, like I said. This fascinating lineup change has really sprouted new wings for the band. So I think they're in good shape and worth seeing. But yeah, that's it for that report. Wow, there was only 3 bands and I rambled endlessly again. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys got some good tips on maybe some stuff to listen to or go see live as well when the opportunity comes. But now, let's not belabor it further. Let's get on with those albums with those birds and the metal music waiting for you. Check them out. Okay then, we will start this month off with Amorphis and their 15th album, Borderland. Oh boy, this is one of those cases where, unfortunately, because I go through the bands in alphabetical order, this time we end up having most definitely the highest profile release of this month already at the very beginning, instead of saving it towards the end with Finnish metal giant Amorphis delivering some new music. I guess in the interest of fairness, gotta point out that last month Warmen was at the very end of the episode, being that it was with W, so, fair enough, sometimes that happens. So anyway, right. Amorphis has been featured on this show once before already. In fact, it was the very first album we talked about at length in the very first episode, was their weird, kind of fascinating live but not with a live audience re-recording of their classic album, Tales from a Thousand Lakes. That was in the first episode, so feel free to go look that back up if you want. But now we get to actually listen to new music from Amorphis on the show, so that's exciting. Let's talk about the bird immediately, which is very easy to find since it's so prominent and really interestingly done here. It's this big, giant swan here at the center. Now, I mean giant in comparison to the humans, which you can spot over there to the side, as this swan is absolutely ginormous compared to them, This is a very, 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 very lovelily done, this swan image here. Like, that painting is done really nicely. It matches the overall kind of warm glow of this setting also very nicely as well. And its role is actually, it serves a purpose to some extent. You need to know Finnish mythology to know about it, but I'll point out that this is the second time a swan appears on an Amorphis album. Previously, it was on, what's the album called? Silent Waters, their, I don't friggin' know which one, 10th album, I'm gonna make a guess. That's just my quick guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th album. Okay, I was a little bit off. Anyway, there's a swan there, and it might very well be the same swan. It is, that album, Silent Waters, was a concept album about the character Lemminkäinen from the Finnish national epic Kalevala, who at one point tries to hunt down the Swan of Tuonela, a swan that swims on the Finnish version of the river Styx, the river that divides the land of the dead and the living. This is almost certainly that same swan, although it may have switched species between albums. I think it's a whooper swan on Silent Waters, the national bird of Finland. But here it's almost definitely a mute swan, given that big lump on its nose. But anyway, whatever. The point is that this is, again, the border of the living and the dead. I don't usually do this, but I checked the lyrics of the title song to, make sure that I understood what's going on in this image. And yes, this is that same swan that, I don't actually know what it does at the border of life and death. I don't really know I don't remember what its exact purpose is. All I know is that Lemminkäinen was supposed to hunt it, and it didn't go super well for him. And it apparently hasn't gone super well for these people in this image either, so there you go. But yeah, this image in general also really, really cool. The color choices, again, like I said, like that kind of glow of dawn or whatever, is very well realized. It's a fascinating, kind of selection of colors here. The green and kind of orangey brown for the trees and the blue there for the cascades. It's fascinating. And this whole image in general, it's kind of crazy. Part of me wants to say that there's too much going on in this image, because there's the whole business with the monstrous swan drowning these poor people in the river Tuonela, or river Styx, if you will. And then on the top, there's this weird bridge thing where this guy is encountering this ghosts, what is going on there. If you read the lyrics, it is the ghost of a father basically coming to his son and inviting him on a trip to see the land of the dead. So that's what this, this is the borderland between these two worlds where they're meeting here. So it's a cool concept for sure. It's interesting, this is very different from what Amorphis has done as album covers for 20 years now. They've all been a little bit more, the earlier ones had more clear image, but it was usually a more singular object in the center, kind of defining the image. And then more recent ones have been a lot of just geometric shapes. So now they have this proper kind of scenery with stuff going on is a fascinating choice, which I think paid off. Again, it's very interesting, I said that it feels like a little bit too much is going on, but on the other hand, it's just really captivating and interesting. So I love this album cover. Yeah. Now musically, so I said that this album cover seems like a departure from what Amorphis has been doing for a good while now. And I was like, does that mean the music's gonna be particularly different? And nah, I didn't think it was particularly different from their recent outings musically. In fact, I thought that the first two songs seemed to almost be kind of a kind of like a, you know, like a baseline, like introduction to Amorphis, like this is the two kinds of songs they make. Because the first one is this really dreamy, ethereal kind of vibing. It's called The Circle, which is weird because they have an album called Circle that came out like over a decade ago, and I guess that doesn't actually have a song called Circle. So here we are finally, which is weird. Anyway, yeah, that song's got this nice, dreamy, ethereal vibe, like easy kind of grooving guitars and like really haunting, ethereal kind of keyboard work, and Tommy Joutsen providing some nice, clean vocals. You know, very, very, very nice. Second song is called Bones, and it's like a lot more kind of jamming. And like now, like Tommy Joutsen is just busting out all his like harsh vocals. Like it's like a much more esoteric and spooky and kind of intense song. So much more haunting on that front. And yeah, like that's kind of the two stylings that kind of Amorphis does music nowadays. So great introduction. I actually thought that they were a little bit by the numbers, a little bit rote. I was like, these are alright songs, but not super interesting, those first couple of songs. So I'd say the opening of this album is kind of the like low point of the album itself, but it really does pick up after that. Like, again, I would say that it doesn't go like super crazy new ground for Amorphis, but that third song, Dancing Shadow, just like a really clean and now extra like astral journeying, like spooky music that just feels like I'm floating off as I'm listening to it. It's very, very lovely, and that's the main vibe of this. Like it's the just like hypnotic guitar riffing and some like really, really interesting like spooky but kind of like vibey kind of keyboard work coming all together, and like nice mid-tempo, sometimes a little bit faster. And Tommy Joutsen mainly uses his clean vocals, but every once in a while, for emphasis' sake, he'll punch out the like, you know, harsh vocals, and I think it works fine. I think after that third song, the album floats along at a decent pace. The big single from this album is Light and Shadow, which has been playing on the radio a bunch, and yeah, it is a real nice pick-me-up song. It once again has a little bit more energy to it. And after that, the album just kind of really finishes off with a bunch of really cool, kind of epic sounding and vibey songs. So you can say that this is an album that like picks up steam and it gets better as it goes along. And yeah, whether it's like comparable to Amorphis' previous work, I don't know, because like I did say that it kind of just like does feel like what the kind of music they make. But this just is a band that's super nice to me to listen to, and like. It just like the way it just keeps picking up speed and speed. The second to last song is the title track that I was already talking about, and it's super captivating. It just like really encapsulates the album. It makes a ton of sense that that's what they picked to be the title of the album itself. It's just a really enchanting song. And yeah, I by the end of it, I was supremely satisfied, and I'm happy to say that Amorphis is still killing it. So I can heartily recommend this album. Alright, next up, let's take a look at some punk music here for a bit. This is, I guess, probably the corner case, least like metal album we'll be looking at today, but I still think it's in the ballpark being a post-punk act, so I think it's appropriate to talk about this. This is the Chameleons, or I guess on this newest album it's just Chameleons, with their fifth album, Arctic Moon. Yeah, this band is a long runner, an old-time band. You know, they were active in the 80s, and then they also recorded in the, they were active, yeah, they didn't even release an album, in the early 2000s for just a couple years. And now, the last few years, they've reformed again, a second time, and have gotten a fifth album out now, so let's take a listen to it. The bird is pretty easy to find right there in the center. It is a white dove that this girl with a gas mask is giving the little, I guess it's the big leaf, the olive branch, whatever it is. The olive branch, the one olive branch, the girl's giving it to. I just now realized. That's interesting. I don't know what's going on in this image. There's a lot of weird disparate parts to it. So, like, the fact that the white dove is missing its olive branch and it's being offered it to is interesting, especially when juxtaposed next to what looks like a mushroom cloud. But there's some fascinating choices here, you know, in the image in terms of, like, you know, the mushroom cloud is stark blue, like, it looks kind of frozen. It actually makes me a little bit like, is that a cloud or a big tree? But the fact that it seems very uniform, I think it's supposed to be a cloud. But it seems almost frozen, like it's part of the, you know, Arctic, you know, surroundings here. And then, you know, then there's the strange choice of the moon, the titular Arctic moon being a fake thing being carried by this cherub on the top right. There's a lot of weird elements here going on. And the, you know, the gas mask and the mushroom cloud juxtaposing with an angel, a bird, and what I think might be supposed to be a, like, a Buddhist monk there with that yellow, sorry, excuse me, orange robe, mayhaps. So there's definitely, like, elements that are, like, you know, contrasting with each other in this image in interesting ways. So I can't say I'm really a huge fan of this image because everything's just a little weird and scattered here. Especially, like, I don't know, like this transparent monk who is, like, one color element that's rather different from all the blue everywhere else. Well, I guess he matches the glow of the horizon, you know, there, but still, it's just kind of odd stuff going on all together overall, so I don't really know what to make of this album cover, I guess, but the bird's fine. It's pretty well drawn and colored dove. You know, good job on that front. Musically, I don't know what I was expecting from post-punk, which hilariously I was like, you know, post-punk. Whenever something's post, I expect it to be fairly modern stuff, but then, like, it's like, well, this band was already in the 80s, so what's up with that? So, quick Wikipedia check, and, like, post-punk came out, like, it's considered to come out, like, in the late 70s, only a few years after, like, punk came out, so they did not stick around with regular punk very long before getting very, very experimental and making this wacky music. So, this certainly has a late 70s, 80s vibe to it. It like, is a hallmark of that time. It comes off more indie rock to my uncultured ears than, you know, like, it doesn't have the, like, even if you think about, like, punk bands from that time certainly sound different from more modern punk bands, but there isn't that, like, in your garage, stick it to the man kind of energy to it. I guess that's the postness, but it ultimately just comes off like easy listening, like, indie rock, you know. There's just chill playing throughout, and, like, simple, you know, easy to listen guitar work here, which, interestingly, there is two guitarists in the band, so there is, like, two guitars playing on top of each other, but it's all done for, like, this nice mellow vibe to it. It's not like crazy, you know, speed metal, like dueling guitar thrashing. It's like easy vibing. It's not a terrible album, honestly. Like, especially the shortest song, Free Me, actually had some, like, really lovely kind of easy to listen, David Bowie-ish kind of vibes to it. I also name-drop that name because there happens to be a song title which references David Bowie on this album. So I guess the influences are palpable, but yeah, I don't know. I don't. It really is a corner case for this metal show, and I wasn't particularly interested by the end of it all. It was nice to listen to once, but not exactly. Nothing like grabbed me that hard that I'd be like, oh yeah, gotta listen to this more. But it's certainly a good mix-up in music here, so maybe this is pleasing to somebody out there, so probably check it out, but I am going to be moving on from this little dabbling into the Chameleons or whatever you will. Next up, we have our second foray into punk rock today. This one, I'd say, cleaves a little bit closer to the metal theme of the show proper, because this is some pretty hard-hitting angry hardcore punk. This is the band End It and their debut album, Wrong Side of Heaven. So I almost overlooked this album for this show because I saw this album cover come up a couple times when looking at upcoming albums, and once again I noted there's a bunch of angels, they have bird wings, sure, but as I have many times noted, that's not enough to appear on the show. I don't allow just angels. Angels are not a good enough qualifier to be on this show. I don't have anything particularly against angels, I just don't think a guy with wings on their back is good enough in my books. Thankfully, around the time of this album's release, I took one more look at this, looked really carefully, and I noticed, there's still no quote-unquote actual birds in this image, but you will notice that there are sculptures of doves on the tops of those fence posts around the gate there. So those definitely are birds. That means this album is fine to cover on the show, unless you want to be a super stickler and be well, they're just carvings of birds. But if you want to get that deep, then I feel like we're getting some Cinepal deep level here. None of the birds are real that we cover their images. So. But yes, of course, an image within an image. Is that allowable? I don't know. I will allow it. I don't think, the birds do, of course, add very much to this image, since I kept overlooking them, and now that I've seen them, they're just set decorations. So, I guess you could have just had this image without them. But I got nothing on that end. Sure, nice to see some marble doves, I guess, but, not much to chew on there. Image itself, overall, it's an interesting one. I like the Monty Python-esque, band logo there at the top. That's kind of fun. And overall, it's an interesting image, the kind of comic bookiness is fun. And then I like that the characters have been rendered really fun. It's got kind of a newspaper comic energy to it. So and good balance of colors overall. There's a lot of colors going on here, but they managed to get it to work overall pretty well. I do have to scratch my head at what the concept of this image, what is going on in this image exactly. I understand that there apparently is a wrong side of heaven, and it's probably not where these anarchists are, because being hardcore punk, they're the relatable sympathetic party in this image. It's the angels in their barbed wire fenced gated community that are the antagonists in this image. But I question what's going on in this image, because those angels have been already pre-wrecked. It'd be one thing if the anarchists had come in and were busting up these angels, or indeed maybe the angels had accidentally come into the anarchist side of heaven and found out what wrong side of heaven means. But in this case, it looks like it's the wrong side of heaven because you just freaking die there, and I don't know, these anarchist guys are these gang dudes are well, shit, what the hell are we gonna do now? They've already all died because they're in the wrong side of heaven. So, I don't know, it's kind of weird conceptually, this image, but I guess it's a striking image. I guess I'm fine with it, sure. So, musically, it's interesting to hear a real proper, oh my god, aggro, hardcore album. We've, a couple times now, I've always gotten my jollies talking about, whenever there's, an album with a very long album with very few songs, which means that there's ridiculously long songs on there. This time we can laugh at the completely opposite effect. This album's only 22 minutes long, and it still manages to fit 15 songs into its runtime, so it's pretty machine gun fire, this album, all throughout. It's got a fun intro, the intro basically kind of a build-up, which, of course, any good anthem, intro song, has the band yelling the name of the album, so that's always fun. And then it becomes a very unrelenting, aggro album, after that. A ton of, fast songs that come at you, pretty angry shout yelling, which I do like, actually. I do think it's interesting that the singer's got, good vocals and good the voice and, proper anger. And just relenting, pretty crushing music in the middle there. In fact, like, it's almost exhausting to listen to this album despite its short runtime, because often, like, there's barely any break, like, you barely register, like, oh, that song ended before, like, the next one strums up and just fires in your face. But yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff ultimately. There's one song around the middle, but unfortunately I lost track which one it is, again, because they go through so fast, where suddenly we get some, like, really cool, like, face-melting guitar shredding. Like, that's the guitarist showing off all of a sudden. Otherwise, it's more straightforward, I'd say, hardcore punk, which is fast and angry, but, like, pretty simple guitar riffs and, like, drum beats. But yeah, it's all right, and that's a fun switch up. And the second to last song, Could You Love Me, is the only kind of good vibe song on the album, which comes as a nice surprise near at the end. It's also the longest song at a mighty 3 minutes 16 seconds. But yeah, suddenly it's got like more positive, like more like a major key like energy, and it's like good vibes. Like, huh, okay. So that's a fun like little, after all the like kind of purging anger, to get that. Now, there is still one more song after that, but after that, like, good vibe song, having Empire's Demise be another angry anthem actually kind of feels refreshing. Like, it's got some really cool drum beats there. So this album definitely knows how to like close itself off. So very good stuff. Yeah, those are standout songs. Otherwise, it's not a lot of standouts for me. I'd have to listen to it a second time to pick up a couple of those cool riffing songs, but it's I don't think it's exactly my vibe. I'm into more melodic punk. So apart from like a couple of choice songs here, I don't think I'll be returning to this one, but it's an interesting one. I definitely do recommend to check it out a little bit. Our next album is from a Canadian atmospheric black metal band called Finnr's Cane. Hope I pronounced that correctly. With their fourth album, self-titled Finnr's Cane. Huzzah! Alright, well, the album cover has the birds maybe a little hard to spot, since this birds are in the kind of shadowy part of the image, but there's a couple of some kinds of birds flocking there in the sky. You can count 3 silhouettes flying there in the sky ahead of the shadowy figure there that's approaching this person. Alright, so the birds, I guess that's kind of what I think their role here is, to herald the arrival of this shadowy figure somehow. It's a little bit of an omen effect. Not a huge element in this image, but I think they're alright as a, little thing adding some, some activity into the image, so can't, complain about it, really, I don't think. Well, and ultimately, like, this album cover's great. The birds aren't a huge element, but the album cover itself is really fantastic. I mean, the obvious winner here is the, like, contrast between light and dark here. Very, very bold, like, contrast here. Just the incredibly, like, rich dark blue here for the shadowy world, and then the very little light here, of the well, I mean, the glow of the, like, fire is very well rendered, and like just the way it's like reflecting off this poor destitute person here lying down is it's just very beautifully done. And I think even the band logo being the contrasty yellow, it's kind of tastefully, like, on the opposite corner from the campfire, so like it doesn't look bad in my eye being there either. So yeah, sick album cover. What's exactly going on here, I don't know, but like I think this is one of those cases where they really do want you, like, asking questions. Namely, like, this person here isn't doing super good. He does not look like he's well, and his conditions aren't great, having to camp without any kind of, like, roof over his head with this fire. And then this figure, like, obviously, that's the big question here, is what does this figure represent? This shadowy being walking in, or actually kind of standing and watching, really. It doesn't exactly look like, I don't know, it's hard to say because it's so blurry, but obviously, what is this figure in the darkness looming over our poor presumed protagonist, what is their significance? Is that the specter of death, waiting for the final moments as this guy's doing not great, or something else entirely? It's ominous for sure. So it's a great album cover. I really dig this one a lot. Musically, I enjoyed this album. Yeah, I enjoy atmospheric black metal, so it's a pretty good win. It starts off with a kind of I'd say it starts off with kind of a almost like a little post-black metal. Like it's got like the kind of like distorted guitars, but then like with kind of like a little bit like punk rock influence. Like there's times in the first song kicks off with like just like a little spooky kind of church choir-y kind of music that then kicks in very quickly into some interesting black metal. I think that first song sets expectations that the next few songs then subvert, and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, because then there's like a stretch of like I think more traditional black metal, just like really fast-paced drumming and some like really like thrumming like spooky like guitar work, like pretty like hard hitting. But like with the atmospheric influences are there, so they're more traditional atmospheric black metal there for sure, by having like some kind of mournful like breaks with the guitars, and then like piano in the background also providing some vibes. Now, the description of this band mentions it's an interesting band that it doesn't have a bass guitar in it. Instead, it has a cello in the band. I'm going to have to confess that I don't particularly notice a change in the music. And part of that is the embarrassing fact, of course, that the bass is often a little bit difficult to notice, like really stand out in music, unless you're listening to Primus. But, in this case, this is the kind of music where, like, I don't know, depends. Could it have been bass? Would it have sounded different if there was a bass? It's impossible to say without actually, like, recording a different album with a bass guitar in it. But I'm not, like, particularly like, oh, what a unique vocal, or unique, like, oral signature to this music. And speaking of vocals, I don't know, it's another one of those, like, kind of warbly and so distorted that, like, I don't, like, I'm not particularly, like, excited by them. So a lot of the vocals just kind of came and went through this, kind of droned on and on. The album really picks up on the last couple songs. Now again, the like more of the post-metal kind of comes through. There's like a really nice melodic like guitar riff in the second to last song, Spell of the Change of Seasons. I really, really enjoyed listening. That's the standout song on this album, I feel like. And then a follow-up, the last song, Harvest. Not quite as good, but also the same kind of energy that's there at the very end. So, yeah. For me, this album's a little bit uneven, since the first song promises stuff that doesn't really come back until the end of the album, and I enjoyed this kind of music, but it wasn't stand out there in the middle either. But there's some really good stuff going on here, so definitely worth a check out, and might be worth either looking up the band's previous albums or look forward to them in the future. I think it's a pretty good effort overall. Next up, it is the Swedish mournful, melodic, death, progressive giants in Mourning, and their 7th album, The Immortal. I've actually seen In Mourning once. It was, I think, 2019, maybe? 2018, 2019. One of the very last concerts at classic Helsinki venue Nosturi was a evening headlined by Omnium Gatherum, and they had their Swedish compatriots In Mourning playing before them, because, yeah, they're fairly similar musically, I would say. In the same ballpark, so it makes sense. And I remember being impressed back then, hearing them for the first time there live. I thought, that's a cool sound and some really nice vibes here. And I did mean to follow up on this band, didn't really get around to it, embarrassingly enough. So, better late than never, listening now to their 7th album. And before we can get to the music, like, I have to gush about how cool this album cover is. This one is a keeper. There's few that have slapped this hard. in a while now, you know? Like, this is so cool. First of all, very good bird choice here. The red-crowned crane, a classic of East Asian imagery, this beautiful bird. Very cool. Like, I love that it's been drawn like, it's got like a little comic booky look to it. Like, that's really unique for an album art. I really dig it. So it's got cool motion. The way it's gripping that mood is neat. It's just rendered very lovingly. I dig this so much. And overall, just like a very, very beautifully rendered picture, like mystifying, you know, enchanting. How do you want to call it? It's like the color work is great. Like, there's very simple colors here with this kind of muted gold and muted bluish gray, you know, doing work here. Then a little bit of dark grays there. Like, amazing work with such a simple color palette. And then the little bit of the crane head really being highlighted by that particular red crown there. Just come together all really well. The shapes are really pleasing, like the big circular shapes here match the crescent moon and the clock. You know, the patterns are intricate with all those clockworks and everything. It's just kind of a joy to look at this and look at all those shapes and like let it sink in. It's it's hard for me to complain about this one. It's just a freaking cool album cover, no matter how you slice it. So musically, I'm also writing in with maybe elevated expectations after that delightful concert all those years ago that I saw. And yeah, they don't quite meet them, but let's talk about the good stuff. Like, when this album does hit, it does it very, very well. Like, it's what I remember from that concert and like the general vibe. And what I like about, you know, Omnium Gatherum or Insomnium is the big feels. It's just like these huge sweeping soundscapes and just like amazing grandeur, and a lot of melancholy comes through, but also just like big hits. I'm a sucker for that stuff, and this definitely delivers that in a lot of great spots. It's tempered with a more like really progressive, like kind of technical, not quite, but almost like a little tech death, like interesting, strange kind of guitar riffs and like vibes that provide balance, sure. Like, for those big sweeping music moments, you also need like a little bit of aggression for sure. So I don't think it's an entire miss, but like, I don't know if it works exactly as I was hoping, and I don't remember these elements from their music 6 years ago, whenever it was. So I'm a little mixed feeling about this, unfortunately, because it definitely has highs, but then I think it's got some uneven parts when these kinds of elements come through. This slightly more modern, you know, I don't know why, but like Mastodon comes a little bit to my mind. It's like if Mastodon had like big, huge, emotional keyboard fills in the background, I guess, is sometimes the energy here, and it just doesn't quite work for me. But again, like, there's like big moments, like like the Staghorn, Song 7 is a great example. It begins with that kind of music, and I'm like, I don't know. It came right after a nice little kind of more slow acoustic, like, emotional vibe song. To like have like this big hammering song, when I'm just like, I don't know if this riff is working. But then halfway of the song, like, you just get hit with, again, those big feels, and I'm feeling it, and I'm really feeling nice. And there's all sorts of moments like that. The Sojourner is one of the, like, singles off of this album, has that same, like, wow, okay. So it's a roller coaster, but a roller coaster of, like, ugh, and then ooh, in my mind. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a strong album, so I do recommend this for people to at least check out and see if you can find those, like, great moments here and how hard they hit for you. I think this is a hard one. I'm gonna have to, like, maybe chew on this a little bit and, like, take a couple other, like, listens to it just to, like, try to, like, figure out how I feel entirely about it. But my current vibe is that this is a cool album, but could have been better at spots, I think. Served up next for us is the Slovenian black metal band Kamra and their second album, Unending Confluence. Never heard of this band before. Hey, it's interesting, you know, to get a band from Slovenia. Let's take a look at it. Might as well listen to the second outing. It is in fact Kamra, not a misspelling of karma. That is intentional, that order there, so who knows. The bird is pretty easy to find in this image. It's this crow or raven or what have you, kind of in the bottom right there, sitting on this branch dangling from this person's neck. The bird itself, it's pretty well drawn and rendered. Like, the color works pretty great. I like the little shine on him, the wing there and the beak. It's pretty well done. I do appreciate it. What the meaning of the bird and its role in this image is, I could not begin to explain because I have no idea what's going on in this image. So, okay, let's get into it a little bit. Like, I think this is the first time, like, I've really done, like, one of these, like, really esoteric imagery things, which have some amount of popularity among metal albums, like, where it's just really bizarre, like, iconography and symbolism. I've done some weird collages for sure, but I think this is a little bit different because, like, there's a strange, like, intent in this image. I haven't really gone too hard on these because I think it's a little droll of me to, like, be too much like, what is the deal with this bizarre image? I don't get it. Because for all I know, there's, like, some really well thought out symbolism based on some kind of historical precedent that I don't know about. And even if that's not the case, like, I'm sure there's, like, proper intent that the artist put into this image to create this strange concept. Like, it could just be that he was listening to the album and, like, this is the image that popped in his mind while, like, vibing to the music. So, who knows? Like, so, I don't want to, like, get too much into, like, being like, oh, this is bizarre, huh? But, let's get into just a little bit because I don't know what's going on here. So this person in the image has a smoke cloud for a head with, like, I don't know, dangling embers, I guess. That is the source of the smoke. He's got 4 arms, a little Goro action going. He's got eyeballs in his palms and his chest. And for good measure, he seems to have, like, a big chunk carved out of his chest and, like, slotted back in. You can see that seam of, like, his chest has been cut into. Yeah, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. I don't know what this all could mean. What the unending confluence is, like, I don't know. Like, a confluence, I think, is, like, where 2 rivers join, is what the word means, I think? So, there's no rivers in this image. Oh, yeah, and the guy is levitating, like, brown sugar cubes in his hands for some reason. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I really don't get it. It's evocative, certainly, so I'm not saying it's a terrible image. I'm not saying that. Like, it like, certainly jumps out to the eye, like, whoa, okay. And I'll say I really like the kind of mustard yellow to green color work here. Interesting, kind of really kind of a little bit like noxious color that, like, is a fascinating choice. And so there's good stuff here, but, like, yeah, I'm not smart enough for explaining what's going on here. The only thing I can kind of guess is you'll notice there's a snake on the other end of that branch from the bird. So that symbolism feels like some kind of balance, like the snake and the crow are balancing each other on this scale. Now that's not a very good scale because it's an uneven branch, so, but still, like, that's what comes to mind, some kind of duality of, like, 2 opposing forces balancing each other out somehow. But that's the best, that's just the vibe I get from that element. How it ties into everything else, I don't think I need to spend more time. I can't parse it. Let's just get to the music, shall we? Right, so it is labeled atmospheric/experimental black metal on the Metal Archives, this band, Kamra. I didn't much get the atmospheric vibe from it. This felt more like regular black metal. I'll say that I guess the atmospheric comes because the vocals are not, like, super shrieky, shrill growl, the black metal growls. They've got that kind of, like, ethery, echoey vibe that a lot of the more kind of esoteric black metal we've listened to has had in the past. So I think that's the element, but the musical side, like the instrument side, is not that far away from regular black metal, like pretty pounding like very kind of, like, repetitive, like, smashing guitar and drum riffs there. Guitar riffs and drum beats there, just pounding through some angry metal. I guess the experimental side comes that the songs often like the intro with like these like really languid, down to kind of ominous, like guitar, like intros, or it likes to have like a little break where everything like tunes down and like this like kind of like off-putting like slow guitar work comes in, and also the lyrics become like a little bit, the vocals, become a little bit kind of spoken wordy. The harshness goes away. It's a bit more like shouty, like sermon-y kind of weirdness, there. So that's experimental, I guess, and there's like a little bit of like keyboard work there, I think, in the mix. But again, like I don't like, it's not exactly what I think of that atmospheric metal. I guess there is atmosphere here, but like the atmosphere is gloomy and off-putting instead of like usually what I imagine, which is a kind of like fantasy soundtrack with like a black metal band put on top, I guess. And I gotta say that like I don't really jive with this take. It's unique and it's spooky and certainly interesting, so a good effort, I suppose. And I will say the vocals, I've complained about these ethery kind of distant vocals just kind of sounding really muddied. This has the same kind of like vocal effect, but I think it's sharper somehow, so I do think it does work better for my ears, the vocals here. Gotta give it that at least. Like there's more like strength and intent there. It's not just like this weird groaning in the background adding to like the droning monotony of it, I guess. It is more intentional. But it's still not exactly something that like really sticks with me, so I'm not gonna be personally listening to this album much in the future. Might be worth a check out for black metal fans looking for something a little bit more esoteric, but I'm gonna have to sign off on not gonna pick this album up again, I don't think. Now let's take a listen at a re-release of a more old album here. This is the US prog metal band Mystic Force and their debut album Eternal Quest, which came out in 1993 originally. So yeah, this band, it's a bit of an obscure one because I'd never heard of it before, and they made 3 albums in the 90s up until 2000, and all 3 of those have been re-released recently. This first one is the one that has birds on it, so that's why we'll be taking a listen to it. Also, rest in peace to Keith Menser, the bassist and keyboardist of the band, who was kind of the driving force of the band. Like, the band was on and off for a few years there, but it was still playing up until 2022 when he sadly passed away. So, and as far as I can tell, I think he was kind of the driving force. Like, I think there's like a couple, like, OG members still alive, but I don't, don't think that, I'm not sure about if the interest is there to carry the band on, but, at least we can remember their output with these new releases, so, yeah. Alright, the birds. It's that flock of white doves there on the right, hanging out with that angel. Of course, I saw the angel first, and, we've already mentioned that in the End It album we talked about. That is not good enough, the angel, but certainly a pack of doves, that's perfectly acceptable as a bird, and we will talk about it here on the show for that. And, this is very lovingly rendered, the birds there. I do like it quite a bit. I should mention that this image we're looking at is for the 2025 re-release. There's different art for the original 93 release. It's basically the same image, but let's say a less refined technique for the concept. So this is the high-def remaster, or whatever you want to call it. Remake, I guess, is more popular, proper as a term, but yeah. Well, obviously the birds here are, the white doves are a symbol of peace, so they are here to represent peace, tranquility, a force of good, to contrast the left side of the screen, which is, strife and, destruction and ruination, the two balances here. So, pretty important role for these birds here, to give that energy of serenity and tranquility, to balance off that other world. It's conceptually an interesting image for sure. There's a lot going on. It's maybe a little wonkily, like, everything positioned here, the way this guy, this druid dude, Gandalf guy here is walking in between these two worlds. But, like, the painting here is really well done. I really like that look of the tranquil world on the left. The burned wasteland on the left. Sorry, I mean the tranquil forest on the right, you know. Really like the paintwork there. The burned wasteland on the left is also, you know, a little... And that hellhound, I could swear I've seen art that looks a lot like that in, like, a Pathfinder RPG book, or maybe a Dungeons and Dragons book. Like, I could swear that's, like, at least, like, been inspired by hellhound art from some RPG book. But, yeah, no, what I find interesting is the concept here. It's, you'd think this guy here walking in the middle, the Gandalf guy, might represent some kind of balance, some kind of, you know, equilibrium for these two forces here. But since the album's called The Eternal Quest, I get more of a feeling like he's walking this path which, like, cuts between these two worlds, forces, concepts, and, like, it's more of a balancing act for the person. Like, they're more, like, trying to keep that path in the middle, although, you know, it's, I don't know, that idea kind of falls apart, because, like, why wouldn't you just want to hang out on that right side, which seems like the nice world, but whatever, you know, that's the energy I get from that, so that's an interesting original concept. I kind of dig it. Musically, I was pretty surprised, but, like, positively so, I'll say, because, yeah, it's mentioned to be a prog band, and the influences are there, but, like, I get way more of thrash metal energy from this album. My very first, like, when the first song, Shipwrecked with the Wicked, kicks off, after a few, like, seabird calls, like, I thought we'd segue to something that sounds a lot like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son era Iron Maiden. Kind of those, like, high-flying, like, new wave guitars. But no, we went more to, like, the slightly more higher-tuned thrash metal is the energy that often comes through here. You know, like, it really brings to mind, like, Annihilator from this time, or maybe, like, a little bit of Anthrax. So, like, there's, like, really, like, slightly more higher tuned, but still, like, you know, intense, kind of, sort of punkish, like, sawtooth guitars jamming, and I guess there's definitely, like, the song structures, while these songs aren't super long, they're, like, none of them are over 5 minutes, although some of them get really close. They do have quite a bit of variance in the structure often, so that's where the progginess comes from. This just happened to be a band that didn't, like, have a, you know, a huge, like, keyboard presence, although Keith Menser is mentioned as playing keyboards as well, but, like, the presence of those isn't, like, massive here. It definitely, that sense comes off the thrash influences more to me. And also the vocals are not, like, particularly intense. They're a little bit more the power metal, which, you know, is also cited as a genre for this. They're definitely more power metal-y, like, high-flying vocals. But I do enjoy this. This is a real nostalgia blast, like, this kind of music. And I think the variety is interesting, like, the kind of vibes are there. Like, I also appreciate a couple songs do what a lot of albums back then did with the, like, I can't even tell if it's an acoustic guitar or just, like, a really softly played electric guitar, but the kind of intro where there's, like, this, like, easy electric guitar, like, playing leading up to, like, when the, like, rest of the band starts jamming and it gets more thrashy. You got a couple songs like that there. And there's one instrumental song near the end called Structures of Uncertainties, which that sounds like the name of a Dream Theater song, and that definitely was the proggiest song, even though it's among the shortest. I think it actually is the shortest song, yeah, because that just is, like, the band showing off all its, like, crazy stylings to, like, the instrumental guys here, you know? So, and there's some really wacky, like, guitar riffing that definitely brings to mind Dream Theater, so yeah, it's altogether, it's quite a fun album to listen to. I didn't hate it at all. It, like, this is what, in the early 90s, to me, bands that didn't go with the trends of the time, this is what they sounded like with those, like, pretty intense sawtooth guitaring. Like, the bands that were more in the moment were the grunge bands and the alt metal bands that were, like paving the way. But then people who wanted to have the more traditional sound and stuck to that, you know, this is kind of what it was like. So this was delightful to listen to. That might also explain a little bit why Mystic Force isn't particularly, like, famous then, I guess, because your debut album coming out in 93 and sounding like stuff from, like, almost a decade ago. Yeah, I can see, like, in that environment, like, doing this music might have been a bit of a hard sell, but I think it's great to be able to appreciate that now, so I think this album is worth a listen. Next up, it's going to be another example of an older album that got re-released lately, and this is a quite classic band in case. This is Pentagram, one of the big names of doom metal from the US, and this is their 8th album, Curious Volume, which came out in 2015, so it might be like a 10th anniversary re-release. I'm not entirely sure why this one came out all of a sudden, but sure, let's take a listen to it. I've listened to a little bit of Pentagram, but I couldn't name you a song off the top of my head, so I'm certainly walking into, pretty unknown territory. But yes, the bird is pretty easy to find in this image. It is this big old raven right here in the said center, looking pretty spooky. And it appears to be an artificial raven, not just a cyborg, I think, because you can see there's like a joint in its beak, and it's got like electrical wires coming out of its eye, so it's got a robot eye. Like, I'm not sure there's any organic parts to this thing, the feathers might be fake as well. I don't know. It's certainly at least a biomechanical bird, so that's fascinating. I don't know what the significance there is, but it's certainly an interesting, design. And, it's been... The feathers and everything are painted really nicely here, so it's a pretty cool image. It also contrasts pretty nicely with that blueprint background, the kind of dark black, with the very kind of manila papery color back there. So, it looks pretty good. The charts are interesting. You can tell they're like electrical charts, but also like other weird scribblings. It's an interesting album cover for sure. I can dig it. Pentagram. So it again, this is considered one of the forefathers of doom metal, because they did get their act started already in the 70s. First album only came out in 85, but still, the point remains, very early doom metal vibes, but I was a little bit surprised that the doom metal wasn't super apparent at times on this album. In fact, the first couple songs I thought were a bit of a weak opening. It's just a lot of basic heavy metal that didn't particularly impress me, Not very interesting with those first couple ones, just all right. And Bobby Liebling, the brains behind the band, his singing's pretty cool. It's groovy for certainly, but yeah, didn't exactly get me fired up. But the third song, Dead Very Dead, thankfully immediately ups the ante with a really groovy kind of doomish guitar riff. It's very lovely that one to listen to. So immediately got me hyped, and I'd say that level remains for more or less the rest of the album. So I'd say this is actually a pretty delightful, release. Pretty impressive that the band busted out such a cool album so far in their career, which is of course not to say that they haven't kept jamming later on. This year a new album came out earlier, so, but still, even so, 2015 was still, quite a ways away from the band from the 70s, there's... It's good variance, there's more kind of... Look, Mr. Liebling has called the band hard rock himself instead of just pure doom metal, so I think those influences are still come apparent, but there is a fuzzy quality to the rocking that gives that doomy energy, and there's especially some of the lower and really pounding, slower, really pounding songs really sell me on that. But there's also just some groovier stuff and some little speed that they do kick in at times. One song including we almost have a little bit of rockabilly jamming at the end, which is very cute. So it's quite a delightful trip, this album, with some cool fuzzy doomy vibes to it, and I think this was a pretty cool introduction to Pentagram. if you're going to be listening, like I'd say if you haven't listened to Pentagram before, this one's a pretty cool album to check out, because I was kind of in that boat and I had a really good time. So, yeah, big recommendations from yours truly. Next up, it's Progeny of Sun and their second album, Prophets of the Void. This is black and death metal coming from here in Finland. Huzzah! Yeah, the birds are in the background, and no, if there was only one bird silhouette, I think you could be like, not sure if that is a bird or just a random shape. I think the fact that you can count at least 3 bird shapes in the background there that, like, definitely look very bird-like, I think it veers it into being safe to say that yes, there are silhouettes of birds in the background there. This is, I suppose, the fact that, like, you're a little bit unsure, though, that really shows that in this image, I don't think the birds really had all that much. Sometimes we get some of these images. I think this one I'm feeling it the strongest that I have in a while, but, like, I don't think they're obviously they're in the background, so obviously they're not the starring thing of this image, and I don't think they exactly are vital to the vibes of this image either, because, I mean, the image itself is pretty cool. I do like it. Like, it's grody, and it's, like, really messy, and it's, like, pretty hard-hitting, so it pretty well, like, represents the music in that sense, I'd say. Like, it just feels like it's been smashed, this image, onto the picture, you know, somehow. Like, it's, like, so brutal. And there's some, like, skulls here, you know. That's always fun. So, you know, yeah, like the image itself is cool. And I guess I don't hate the birds, but, like, they could have just been other random cracks or smudges or whatever's going on in this image as well. And I think it would work about as well, you know. So, but good enough for it to show up on the show. Like, obviously, it's still a bird on an album cover, so might as well talk about it. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot more to say about the music itself. Straightforward death metal, maybe a little bit black, and still isn't exactly my wheelhouse, and by the time I had listened to a couple of songs, I was like, oh boy, is this gonna be another one of those where I'm like, ooh, it all sounds a bit too samey for my tastes. And yeah, that's kind of the case with this album. These, like, cleaner, pure death metal albums, I'm just terrible at, like, reviewing, apparently. These ones, I really have that, like, old folksy, not listening to metal, like, take of just, like, it all sounds the same kind of noise. Like, I guess I'm a little bit like that, but I'm doing my best here. Now, positives, definitely, I would say the vocals are pretty impressive. Like, they're suitably gutturally dark and deep, and I really do like that the vocals come pretty dang hard here. I like that it's kind of, the Black End vibes come off as like just a little bit of symphonic or like a little bit of melodic vibes at times. You know, something like maybe like Septic Flesh, like a little bit coming to mind at times. And they're doing it without having like keyboards. I checked that this band does not have keyboards listed in it. So they're just managing it with like basically 2 guitars. Like one guitar is doing some really heavy like thrumming, like pounding riffing, and the other one's kind of in the background supplying a little bit more like atmosphere to the album. So pretty good interplay there. Yeah, speaking of those guitars, like it definitely also has like a little bit more modern sound to it than classic 90s death metal for sure. Like it definitely has, once again, like a little bit of like veering towards, I guess, a little bit like gent or a little bit like alt metal, those like straightforward thrumming metal guitar riffs. But it's still pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. I like that side. But it's 12 songs, go on for 47 minutes. It's the same kind of like brooding and dark and kind of ominous and like angry vibe that like doesn't really change all that much, and so I'm a little bit like by the end of the album, the third to last song, To Face, and the final song, Forsaken Brigade, they actually slip in like a little bit of proper melodic metal in there, you know, like a little bit more melody. I'm not saying the band should have been a Melodeath band, because that would be a little bit of selfish of me, of course. I would have personally liked it, but clearly this band's mission was not to be music like that. But I also can't deny that I thought that brought like a little bit of appreciated change up there at the end from what was otherwise an album where I couldn't tell like a ton of variety with the like riffs and with the like kind of other like musical choices and everything. So, I think if you like really straightforward death metal, guess give it a spin, but I'm not gonna really be returning to this album ever again myself. I think not really for me, unfortunately. Alright, this is a amusing first for the show here. We are dealing with a Christian metal band for the first time. This is Reign of Glory and their second album, Slingshot, which came out just now. Let's take a look. I haven't heard of this band before, because it's not exactly my area of music for sure. But you know, trying to be thorough here, I guess. The birds in this image, you know, I don't know what birds they are because of this whole, you know, this silhouette image here. It's pretty hard to read what those are supposed to be, but there's a big old flock of birds flying behind Goliath here. It's pretty easy to say it's David and Goliath duking out here in this image. I think the birds are a pretty good enhancement to the image. They kind of add to Goliath's already considerable size here. Kind of makes him feel like a force of nature with this like flock of birds like flying in from behind him. So that adds like a little bit of energy to the guy in this image. So I do think the birds are pretty good in this image, even if they aren't like a particularly central element, but they're pretty good in enhancing it. And speaking of the image, I really do need to hype this up. This image goes incredibly hard for a Christian metal album, you know? Like, wow. It is, because I have a some sort of bias towards the genre, as expecting it to be a bit namby-pamby, wishy-washy. So, an album cover going this hard of showing the David v. Goliath throwdown, you know, with this like crazy blood red lighting and, you know, this like super like stark kind of imagery here, and like the silhouetting. This looks like if you hired Frank Miller to like do a image of the classic throwdown, you know. It's wow. That kind of already like piqued my interest when I saw like something this like crazy as an album cover. So yeah, this is really cool. I really dig it. Quick aside, just interesting though. Also, if we're talking about the theme here, I was a little bit fascinated by the number of nails in the band's title. You can see there in Reign of Glory, there are 4 nails there. You know, 2 on the G's, 2 on the O's. And I had to wonder, like, I'm sorry, like, it's supposed to be presumably the nails that Jesus was put on the cross for. Didn't he get 3 nails put through his limbs? So I did a little bit of looking up, and I found a Wikipedia page for the exciting term triclavianism, which is the belief that Jesus did indeed take 3 nails to the hands and feet. But that's apparently not a given in Christian history and theology. Like, there actually is debate about how many nails were used, and there apparently is a branch that says that it was 4 nails. So, interesting. Reign of Glory, like, really stunting here a little bit with the theological trivia on their logo, I guess. Sure, why not? So, as I said, I have some expectations. If you say it's Christian-themed rock or metal, I'm expecting some kind of a little bit of, you know, like, easy-flowing kind of mid-tempo rock with some sort of cheesy lyrics about the glowing goodness of Christ and all that. So, expectations have been set. I thought that this opened up okay, I didn't expect it to go as insanely hard, the music, as the album cover does, obviously. But they did, like, start with a promising kind of more a new wave traditional metal, like really fast-paced and, like, jamming song. Like, alright, this is interesting. And the first song, Hold On, was pretty solid with that kind of, yeah, like, the singing provided by Mark Bowles, who used to sing for Yngwie Malmsteen at one point. Like, he provides a very kind of Scorpions-y kind of vocals to this. But yeah, this playing was pretty tight, like pretty like fast-paced and kind of cool, like jamming on the first song. So that was pretty hype. I'd say my hype meter then deflated as we went on with the album, you know, like, you know, because, like, the Scorpions' influence has suddenly switched on way harder. Like, it becomes way more like classic metal in that sense. You know, the high speed of the new wave vibes kind of vanished. Like, it came back on some of the songs, but there's also a lot of, like, more easy listening, like, mid-tempo, Scorpions-y, super classic metal vibes, which, sure, I guess for this genre is fine, but I was at least hoping the Slingshot song, it's called Slingshot of Faith, the actual song, but it's kind of like the title track, because, you know, it's still singing about the same thing. I was hoping that one would, again, like, be jamming hard as heck, but, no, it was also on that vibes there. And I think let's say the proselytizing about the faith wasn't super heavy in the start. I think it could have been like generic, like, hard rock, heavy metal lyrics for a good long while. But then that stuff I was talking about started popping up in a couple of the final songs. In particular, the song Holy, Holy, Holy feels like a parody of this genre. It's like exactly what I was thinking of. It's just like some kind of like, you know, high spirits church gospel converted into like a hard rock song. So I was like, oh boy, okay, I think I'm done with this album. But then they closed off this like wacky hard rock sandwich. They closed off with another like big like fast-paced number, Too Close to Midnight. So, you know, interesting choices on the song orders, and I guess the like choices overall in what to play. Like, all right, but yeah, it starts off rocking hard, and it ends with a big old metal number, and in between, it's sort of kind of what you expect ultimately from this. And I don't think I'll be returning to this one. You know, I don't. The Scorpions-iness, it's a classic band, but it isn't exactly my thing. So I don't really. I'll admire the album art in the future a few more times, since that's a pretty cool. Again, that one. But otherwise, this was ultimately kind of what I thought it'd be, and it's not exactly my thing at all, really. So nah. Next up, some stoner metal from Ukraine. This is Stoned Jesus and their 6th album, Songs to Sun. This is actually our second time looking at Stoned Jesus. A year ago, thereabouts, we listened to their second album from 2012, Seven Thunder's Roar, which got a re-release back then. And I remember thinking back then that was a pretty good album. It had that amazing song, I'm the Mountain, which was this huge 16-minute long, massive stoner rock out, so that's what's left in my mind, is that was pretty cool. So, glad to listen to some new stuff from these guys. As I mentioned back then, you know, if the band's called Stone Jesus, you can make some guesses about what the music's going to be like. But first, the album cover. Yeah, the birds aren't super huge in this, so this is a bit of a formality in bringing this album on the show, but it absolutely is qualified if you look at that little flock taking off over there from that misty wood there. Yeah, I don't think, I don't know, like the juxtaposition of the birds flying to this guy floating in the air, like maybe there's something there, but I have to admit I don't think the birds add a lot to this image. I think this one could have worked just as fine just being that foggy forest. Same foggy forest as in Devin Townsend's last album, Power Nerd. It's looking very similar, actually, now that I think about it. Just with the added floating flame on dude. But anyway, yeah, it could have worked without the birds. I don't feel
huge looking at this image from them. But I do think this is a pretty nifty image overall. It's not a fancy image, but first of all, kind of fun having like a border like this going around it. That's kind of neat. And it is an evocative image of this foggy forest that looks pretty neat. I do like that. And, well, the imagery, I don't know, this guy on fire, sure, it's supposed to be shocking, but this one feels a little bit pedestrian to all the kinds of, like, crazy events happening in album covers. Certainly in today's episode, we've already had some way wackier imagery going on, so sure, it doesn't feel that crazy, but it's an interesting concept, and in this one, the contrast of colors is super cool. It's like a step above what I've talked in the past about that super overplayed blue versus orange look. Now it's this monochrome, slightly green-tinted gray being contrasted with the orange, which is orange and yellow and all fiery. So it's a pretty striking image. It's not bad at all. It's not crazy amazing, but it's pretty neat. So musically, we have a sampling of 6 songs fit into 40 minutes, and for 6 songs, I thought they did a pretty good mix-up of vibes, so it was a pretty good even package. It's a pretty good album. There's 2 pretty good, like, stonery songs. Like, first one is kind of a build-up to, like, some cool jamming. The next one is a very fuzzy song. So those first songs, New Dawn and Shadowland, are pretty cool. I think the mid part of the album takes a dip, unfortunately. The third song, Lost in the Rain, is it's a slower, like a little. It's not acoustic, but it's like way more like slower and softer, a bit ballady. So it's like let's slow it down a little bit and just have like some soft vibes here for a bit. Then the next song, Low, kind of continues that, but now gets a more melancholy, and I think it kind of eats the energy of the album away. Like, I do think stoner music should have like a little bit of energy to it, so yeah. Thankfully, the second to last song, See You on the Road, is fantastic. That's the best song on the album. It's got that stonery fuzz, but it's also got like a little bit of alt metal in its like really kind of edgy guitar riffs. Like, it is very interesting, and it was delightful, and it goes places, that song. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The final song is called Quicksand, and it's the longest song at almost 10 minutes long. It's a pretty good album capper. It goes back to kind of the, like, quieter vibes, but it's like this crazy build-up through the song to some, like, real manic vibes by the end. Or like really like intense, kind of almost panicky music. So it's an interesting trip that it takes you through, and it's got like a pretty unsettling vibe to it. It's a pretty good capper, like I said, to fall off this album. So yeah, I think it says something about this, that in this case I really was able to like just kind of rattle off the points of all 6 of the songs here, like kind of, I was left with impressions from all 6 of them. So I think that's already a good sign for the album, that like they're very distinct, the songs. Yeah, it's a shame that I didn't really vibe with what they were going for that middle section of the album. I didn't think it served the album very well. But overall, I do think if you like this kind of doomy desert rock fuzz stoner music, I think this should be something to check out at least. If I've read correctly about some of the discussion about this album, this is the first part of a trilogy. There's going to be 2 more Songs 2 albums after Songs to Sun. So, maybe it will become part of a really lovely whole later on, but it's a promising start all the same, if indeed we are to expect a trilogy. So, good on them once again. I'm pretty happy with this band, and I look forward to what's coming up next, and I'm going to be listening to that See You on the Road song a couple times. That one rocks. I'm not sure about the rest of the album, but very much looking forward to what this band's going to be cooking in the future. Alright, let's wrap up this month with another re-release of a older album here. This is the big-name metalcore band We Came as Romans, and their second album from 2011 called understanding what we've grown to be. Quite the mouthful there, but sure. Yes, I think this might be because they just had a new album come out like a month or two ago or something. They re-released, I think, the first 3 albums of We Came as Romans, so this was one of them. So that's why we're looking at it now. The band, I tried to listen to like a little bit of it. I've certainly like listened to a few songs of it. I didn't hate it, but it never really grabbed me enough to like really put time into it. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure I checked out this newest album, and their 22 album I think I listened to as well. But like, yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about them. I'm sorry to say, I can't remember anything. But we've got this to talk about now. So, bird-wise, here's something we haven't really dealt with in a while. The bird-like monster creature that's in the image, which isn't really a bird, but there's like enough avian features that it's clearly supposed to be like some kind of monstrous bird creature. And we're faced with the like question of, well, should I allow that on the show or not? Like, where does the line go with fantasy birds? In this case, I mean, so the thing we're talking about is this thing on the right here. Is if it's not clear, it's clearly got like a beak and wings coming out of it, which definitely gives it enough of an avian vibe that I want to like include it on the show. But it's also got like this weird upper body tentacle thing with a grasping arm too. So it certainly like top 40% of the creature. Yeah, pretty strong bird. Bottom 60%. Who knows? Very strange. But it's cool because I like this concept going on here. There's one song on this album, The War Within, that talks about the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. And this kind of has that energy going on in this image. And because there's these two creatures talking into this person's ears. But I kind of love it, like, because the light creature is also kind of horrifying as this strange panther monster screaming thing. So it's kind of hard to say which one's the angel and the devil here, ultimately. I feel like, I don't know, I think the bird overall wins out on the demonic points, but, you know, maybe they're both bad guys, who knows? I don't know. Anyway, well, this is kind of like that Kamra album we talked earlier in this episode, where I don't know what to make of all this crazy imagery here, so I have a hard time, you know, talking about the image itself, you know, and like what to think of it. Although I did just give an analysis of what I think the role of the bird in this image is, so I guess it works in that sense. But yeah, I mean, so this guy's a bit of a mascot to this dude in the center. Like, a similarly designed person is on all 3 of their first albums, at least, if not even in some later albums. And it's the same idea of this, like, bald figure with a strange growth coming out of the top of their face instead of eyeballs. So, yeah, I don't know. So on top of that, we have, the devil and the angel, or whatever these are, and as they whisper into his ear, they rip his stomach open where the contents come pouring out of it. Like, is that the inner struggle pouring out of this person? What is that supposed to be? I don't frigging know. And then there's the landscape of, like, rocks and stuff with, like, stony limbs all over. I don't know. But, you know, it's pretty cool. I do ultimately think it's a cool album. Like, it's certainly striking. Like, it's vivid. It got me like, wow, okay. And, I like the kind of fogginess of it. It's got a weird ethereal quality to it, which just adds to its mystery. So, pretty cool. And musically, yeah, this is pretty neat. This is the kind of very emotional metalcore that, like, honestly, I felt is a little bit newer than 2011. Like, this seems like a little bit ahead of its time, but maybe I just haven't been paying attention to the genre enough. But, like, it's the kind of music, you know, that, like, there's some, like, chugging guitars, and there's aggressive, you know, screamo, shout lyrics, singing, you know. But there's also, it's constantly balanced by, like, clean vocals that are really emotional, pouring their heart out. You know, also, like, you know, might even be, like, more, sometimes it feels like they're a bigger role than the harsh vocals. And there's these, like, really placid, like, you know, emotional
like piano like fills in the background and other like keyboard fills, just adding to like this softer ambience, which is in a constant interplay with the angrier, hardcore punkish like metalcore vibes going on, you know? Basically, like, if you liked the boss music in Sonic Frontiers, like, this is definitely music for that audience. This one's slower paced, like, I don't think it would quite work as boss music, all of the songs here, because, yeah, the tempo is a little bit more like medium to a bit slower, but the vibes are there. And I gotta say, this album is freaking fantastic. Like, me personally, I was so delighted listening to this. Like, that vibe that comes through this is so freaking impressive. Like, it grabbed me from the beginning with the very first song, you know, jamming through that, like, those exact emotions, and then, like, it just kept on, like every song just kept on layering some cool vibes. Now, I will say, I listened to the deluxe edition, which has 3 extra songs to a massive 15. It's still not a huge album, it's only 47 minutes long even with that, but maybe the deluxe edition is a little much. Like, maybe it doesn't need to be quite that much, you know, I might say. I think you can levy the excuse that I say about a lot of, like, albums where, like, the songs start to, like, bleed into each other a little bit, you know. But since this is something I find really catchy, most of the time I just kept being delighted by another new, like, really cool, like, angry guitar riff and, like, some really cool keyboards filling in, like, some cool vibes into the background. Just like, wow, okay, this is sick. And, yeah, I ultimately was really, really delighted listening to it. Like, yeah, if I listen to this a couple more times, maybe I can start picking out, like, a couple songs that I could maybe drop out to, like, you know, lean it down a little bit. But, yeah, it's freaking impressive. It was cool vibes beginning to end. The couple times it changes it up by having, like, a more angrier, like, more hard-hitting metalcore song, or towards the end they slip in a couple more faster tempo songs to, like, shake it up. Those felt really good, you know, in the vibe that was going on. So ultimately, like, really fantastic album in my mind. It is crazy. Like, this is very, very delightful to listen to. So I guess a huge recommendation from me if you are into this pouring your heart out metalcore stuff. This is a great serving of that. I'm, like, really delighted by it. And that, dear viewer/listener, will be the ending of the September edition of Metal Albums with Birds on the Cover. I hope you enjoyed it. Wow. I had this impression that this month wasn't going to be as huge as last month, but somehow all these albums just crept up on me, and here we are with another ginormous report that we've gone through. But I hope you guys, you know, still found it interesting. If you guys watched and listened to the whole thing, then thank you. That means a lot. That's impressive. And I hope there was something that really caught your fancy in that. Once again, just eclectic serving of different kind of music there. Lots of interesting picks this month, I'd say. So let's say, what's my favorites this month? The race for the best album cover is quite tricky. There were some really beautiful album covers this month, so it's a tight race for sure on this front, I'd say. I think I have to go with my gut instinct that just In Mourning was the best one. It's a very inspired choice of bird, having that red topped crane. What the heck is it called? The Asian crane thingy. And it's just like the style is very bold and very interesting. It's got like this cool comic booky slightly, but also kind of like abstract kind of vibe going on. And the color balance is beautiful. I think it's ultimately ekes out a win past the other couple big heroes this month, Amorphis and Finnr's Cane, I'd say, were like the really like holy moly standouts of the new albums, at least. You know. There was also when I was going through some of the re-releases of old albums, I'd say all of them were also pretty cool. But yeah, out of all of that, In Mourning,
probably has to take the victory. It's too bad that I have to like still be a bit of a negative Nancy, that I think the music itself didn't quite live up to the amazing album cover. I guess it's not just that, but also I really was setting like some unfair expectations after how much I enjoyed them live that one time. So yeah, sorry to say that I'm still sticking with that idea that like it was a good album, but like kind of left me a little bit wanting too many times for me to nominate it as my favorite musically. It'll get the art reward, but musically, oh boy, this one looks like some kind of biased collusion, but I think I gotta give it to Amorphis. Like, it's just a really well done album from them. Yes, I am a mark for Amorphis in particular, and they are fellow countrymen, so you definitely could levy the charge against me that I'm giving them some unfair advantage here. I don't know. And yes, I also like, it's very easy to get me hyped up by like having like Nordic mythology vibes there. Sure, like, yes, whatever. Yes, I know. All that said, I really did like, it was an album that just grew better and better as I listened through it, and it just was delightful. And Amorphis's reputation, I think, is deserved. They are a band which really, really just does a good job. And this one is just another, like, great notch on their record. Yeah, I think it, like, falls a rank or two below their, like, best work, for sure. I'm not really going into Amorphis with the expectation that they're going to top their best work, so I am satisfied if it's just this cool vibing that we get like this. It's still powerful and feels great, and I think they land it here again, so I will give the award there. Also, since this month we had several re-releases, I feel confident or feel okay in doing like a quick like separate category for these three albums, which were Mystic Force, Pentagram, and We Came as Romans. I think it's easy for me to say that We Came as Romans swept this one. They were all actually really nice, all three of these, but like, boy, that was some really hard-hitting and cool metalcore. So We Came as Romans, like, shocking how good it was. I've tried to listen to this band, as I may have mentioned, like, their newest releases. I definitely like listening to like a song or two, and with the re-releases of a bunch of their old stuff, I also tried to give those a listen. And yeah, like it's all right, but like didn't leave too much of an impression. So it's really crazy that this one specific album seems to be firing on so many cylinders. But yeah, absolutely, that wants to stick out in my mind out of the re-release stuff this month. Yeah. So, that's going to be it for September. Thank you so much again for listening in. If you guys enjoyed any of the picks, if you enjoyed the ones that I mentioned here as the best, or if you wanted to, listen to something else, you thought that something else grabbed you better, was more in your wheelhouse, and I was talking a bunch of nonsense, then that's great too. I'm glad I was able to recommend that music as well. And if you really do want to support them, please do look in the comments for a link to where you can go support the artist and get the album. Except that right now, at the time of release, the links are probably not going to work. So, if you come back in a few months, it'll probably work. But right now, unfortunately, I'm in a bit of a YouTube pickle, and they're not exactly working as it should. So you folks may have seen a bunch of high-profile YouTubers make some videos talking about YouTube being broken, I guess. Like something being wrong with how YouTube's automation and the algorithm work, the troubles that people have had. And I am here to admit that despite my channel being like this tiny little, hobby project thing, I've been hit with that same nonsense, honestly. And in particular, it is manifested as an notification that I got in August from YouTube that oh gosh, I know really how was it like phrased? apparently my channel has lost access to advanced features because I do not have sufficient channel history. And one of the ways that manifests is that I am unable to put external links in my video descriptions. So right now, if you look in the comments, you'll see like stems of addresses, but you can't actually click on those links. I apologize for this. What you're going to have to do is just look at the like stem of the link and figure out what website I'm trying to get you to, and you're going to have to do a little bit of DIY to find the album itself. Yeah, sorry about that. What I'm doing is I'm working to try and restore my features on YouTube, which is why I'm hoping that if anyone is watching this in the later future, this doesn't apply to you and you're welcome to just click on the links. I really hope it'll be like that. So, yeah. It's funny, all those videos from those other, like, bigger name YouTubers, the ones I saw all mentioned how, like, these aren't the kind of videos that, you know, viewers of YouTube want to see, and, like, it's not really your concern as viewers to, like, you know, have to worry about the, like, nuts and bolts. And it is true for, you know, you people, my viewers, as well. Like, it's true as well. You don't really need to worry about this, and I understand. So, like, this is the end of the episode, basically, for you guys. Feel free to just, like, tune out, like, you know, at this point, and I'll catch you in October for the next installment. But if you'll permit me, those who have the stomach for this, I'm just gonna bellyache about this, like, a little bit. Like, it is kind of laughable that, like, I'm being told that I don't have sufficient channel history, given that, like, a year ago I was celebrating the 10th anniversary of me doing videos on YouTube, and they've all been on this channel. So what exactly they're talking about channel history, I don't know. And it's not just a channel history thing and like the features being like cut off, but I have also like noticed that my views have actually gone down. Like the engagement has actually dipped. Even though my engagement has never been huge, I'm not trying to get all big-headed here and act like I'm a big name. But I really thought there was something good going on here, like this year. Last year and this year, I felt like there really was like a step up in my, you know, viewer count and like activity. And it really felt like, even if it was one or two people, my videos were connecting with people in a really nice way because I was getting some good feedback and like comments. It seemed just, you know, nice, and then view counts were up. And now, like, it feels like I've just like been like Batman being dropped in that hole in Dark Knight Rises. I've just been like knocked back down, absolutely to the bottom. And you know, I don't know, like I'm definitely starting out. I was like, this is a project that's a hobby thing. I'm not going to worry about like external validation, and like I'm not going to worry about like popularity or clout or gaining attention. But I can't deny that like it did feel good to like feel like some kind of growth. Like it was really nice. And to have that like just crumble like this is really, really crummy. So yeah, and this channel history business, which I can't tell, is it just the same BS that's going on right now, or is it that somehow all these metal videos I've been making, which get notices about the music I've been using, which do note that they're not copyright strikes, they're just notifications that I can monetize them, and I'm not monetizing them, though there shouldn't be a problem, but I don't know if that's what's caused this. All I can do is just hope I can fix this, because there are like methods for trying to quote-unquote build positive channel history, and that's why I'm hoping that in a couple of months this will all be blown away. I've also tried messaging YouTube help, but I'm not very confident that anyone's going to answer me there. So yeah, it's been a bit disheartening, honestly. Like, it has been, like, recently working on YouTube with these stuff being knocked my way. You know, it's been a bit like, man, I'm feeling a bit down. But, like, yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna, because I don't want to leave all those video game series undone. And I really like doing this metal show as well. So, ultimately, I'm not gonna, like, call it quits over this. But, like, it has been something that I've had to just, like, be like, ugh, with lately. And I hope that doesn't shine in the, like, that doesn't come through in the videos too much. I hope they're still enjoyable for those of you who still somehow do find your way onto my channel. Yeah. But, yeah, ultimately, yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. I'll see what happens. Hopefully, again, this will all be fixed in the future, and we can all just have a good time again. But yeah, had to bear my heart here a little bit. This was probably the best junction for it, given that there is an actual palpable effect for you with the lack of the links right now. But we'll all try to get through that, and we'll just be laughing at this nonsense in a couple of months. Maybe, I don't know. But, like, as I mentioned, it's been a pleasure. Like, again, working on this video and listening to all this music was a pleasure. Getting it out to you, it really was. And I hope that you folks did enjoy the selection once again. So, if you really did, then I hope I find you here again a month from now. October, more metal music, and there will be some Bird albums, so I'm going to be documenting them. That's how it goes, and I hope you'll be there for it as well. But for now, it's been great, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye!